But I got money in the bank, gold in the safe, 30 in the clear, I got more in my waist. Done the whole shit, I can let it go to waste. Hold up. But I got money in the bank, gold in the safe, 30 in the clear, I got more in my waist. Done the whole shit, I can let it go to waste.
This live stream may contain content that could be perceived as shocking or offensive, but it is presented solely for educational purposes. Viewer discretion is advised. We strive to adhere to community guidelines, and any potentially sensitive material is shared with the intent of fostering understanding and learning.
Yo, how's it going, guys? It's your boy, Atypical Security Guard, coming to you today with a very just absolutely horrible and disheartening story. It's coming out of an area just outside of Ohio. Looks like this happened yesterday, potentially, maybe even Monday. Ohio toddler stabbed at a grocery store. Today we're going to be talking about 5 tips to protect your family. I think it goes without saying, I've said this time and time again, you know, this one specific situation that we're going to be talking about with this unfortunate death of this toddler, it lends itself to a couple of different conversations that we've had. Number one, about the dangers of grocery stores, you know, a common theme on this channel. People who are questioning why there are security guards that work at these locations. I've said many times that these are the types of things that we deal with. These are the types of things that large grocery chains, large retailers are trying to avoid. And the second issue is that, you know, random acts of violence, they happen. Mass shootings, situations like this, robberies, burglaries, you know, this is a part of, unfortunately, everyday life. It's a dangerous world out there. So in one regard, you know, having private security officers working these locations is very important. But an even more important aspect of this conversation is getting people in your life, your wife, you know, your loved ones, to understand that this is a reality. It's a reality that people unfortunately face all too often. It's a reality that people deal with in places that are seemingly very safe, seemingly very innocent. And that's why these things happen. People choose grocery stores. They choose shopping malls. They choose schools. They choose hospitals because these are soft targets. As long as there are soft targets, and as long as people allow themselves to be lulled into thinking that they are somehow immune to this type of violence, unfortunately, these types of things are going to happen. So let's get into the story. It says a 3-year-old boy is dead. That's horrible to even say, after officials say a Cleveland woman attacked and stabbed the boy and his mother outside of a northeastern Ohio grocery store in what appears to be a random act of violence. The attack took place Monday outside of a Giant Eagle in the city of North Olmsted, a Cleveland suburb, police reported. On Tuesday, and I cannot say this name, so I'm going to skip that, County Medical Examiner's Office identified the child as Julian Wood, age 3, of North Olmsted. The news story is going to come to you via News 5 of Cleveland. The link is attached in the description of this video. Let's go right to the tragic news story. Stand by.
We are following new breaking developments out of North Olmsted.
We have just learned a 3-year-old boy has died after him and his mother were stabbed in the parking lot of a Giant Eagle. Our Mike Holden live for us this morning with the latest. Mike.
Ladies, a tragic update that we have for you this morning out of this tight-knit North Olmsted community. The medical examiner now confirming that 3-year-old Julian Wood has passed away from his injuries at a local hospital after he was stabbed at this Giant Eagle parking lot with his mother. We're now working to learn how his mother is doing, who was also rushed to the same hospital located in the area. However, at this point, perhaps the biggest question is, what was the motivation behind this apparent random attack? We now know that that the woman responsible is in police custody and facing a number of criminal charges. But I want to take you back to this information from yesterday as we continue to follow through this morning. North Olmsted Police shut down the Giant Eagle parking lot Monday afternoon where shoppers were still inside grabbing their groceries. It was outside of this Lorraine Road location where 3-year-old Julian Wood and his mother were stabbed. Shortly after, police arrested and charged 32-year-old Bianca Ellis in connection to this crime. As Ellis was taken into custody, other officers worked to give Wood and his mother first aid as those medics rushed to the scene. Ellis's motive, as well as connection to the victims, is still not entirely clear at this point, but shoppers told News 5 this incident has certainly rattled them, considering a murder-suicide happened at this same store roughly 1 year ago.
I was just completely shocked because I've grown up here my whole life, so I was just shocked to even hear that happened.
It's scary knowing that you can't even just go to the grocery store anymore. And after, things that have happened in the past, it's like, what's going on?
Now, North Olmsted's Mayor Nicole Daly Jones also weighed in, saying in part, quote, "I'm deeply saddened by this incident. Our hearts go out to the 2 victims of what appears to be a random act of violence." Now, back out here live in North Olmsted, again, the medical examiner confirming 3-year-old Julian Wood has died of his injuries at a local hospital. We're still working to learn how his mother is doing. Of course, guys, we're going to continue to follow through with police and continue to check for updates. And as soon as anything new breaks, we'll break back in. Back to you.
Yeah.
Absolutely horrible. I mean, the story itself is absolutely horrible. You hear in the news story there that a murder suicide happened there a year ago. And then you also hear that people in the background of the story are saying, hey, look, it's shocking that this is happening. It shouldn't be shocking. It shouldn't be shocking to anyone across the country. And it definitely shouldn't be shocking to the people of that area. If in that location a murder-suicide happened just a year ago, that should be a clear wake-up call and indication that you're living in an area that is susceptible to violence. So I don't want to pile on the people that are there. I want to talk about things that we can do to potentially prevent your family, prevent your loved ones from falling victim to this. So I want to talk today about top 5 ways to protect your family. There's a couple of things that we can do. Clearly understanding that this can happen is probably the biggest thing. But again, we will get into the top 5 things. So what's number 5? Guys, look, number 5 is acceptance of the threat. There are still too many people that I know, people in my family, my friend circle. There's a lot of people that are close to me. I do this for a living, probably make a video a day, put out content, concerning personal protection, concerning protection of your family, especially those family of mine that live here in Portland. They see it. They're around it. They smell it. They hear it. Still a lot of people that don't accept that this could happen to them. And I think that the question that we're asking most people is not, do you understand that life is dangerous? Not, do you understand that something could happen to you? I think that when we bring that question up to people, what they're really hearing is, are you ready to do what's necessary? And most people, they're not. Most people would rather run the numbers and gamble that nothing ever happens than to accept that they are a potential sitting victim. And that means when the time comes, they are the one that is going to have to do something about it. Most people would rather just say, hey, look, I'll just play the numbers. So if you want to be protected, if you want your family to be protected, if you don't want your loved ones to end up on one of these news clips, there has to be a level of acceptance. I always tell people in my firearms training classes or seminars, or anytime that I ever have a chance to talk to anyone about personal protection, I always tell them that the longest step that they're ever going to take is the towards acceptance. That step toward acceptance. I liken it to a very large bridge. And I say that most people, they look at that bridge and it's 800,000 miles long, and they can't even imagine getting to the other side. And the other side is understanding that you have to be your own first responder. It's too long of a journey. Most people will never take it. So if you want your family to be protected, if you want to be personally protected, if you want to at least have a chance to not end up a victim, you have to accept that the threat is real and that the responsibility is yours. What's number 4? Number 4, situational awareness. People in the tactical space, they hate the term situational awareness because the root of your safety comes down to just understanding where you are, what the potential threats are, accepting that threat, and not putting yourself in certain situations. If you do those 3-4 things, you've lowered your risk of being a victim to about maybe 10, 15, 25%. And in the tactical space, that takes all the fun out of jiu-jitsu, carrying a firearm, having all the tactical shit, right? Just understanding that things can happen and be aware of your surroundings takes a lot of the need for the cool shit that's marketed to us in the 2A space. Takes a lot of the need out of it. So situational awareness. Are you aware of what's going on around you? Guys, I've said this 100 times. The amount of women that I see at the grocery store with full-on headphones, over-the-ear headphones, not wanting to be bothered, I get it. Not wanting to be approached by guys, I get it. Not wanting to hear the cat calls, I get it. Not that I believe a lot of that is still happening, but I understand the sentiment behind it. But when you're cut off, auditorily from your surroundings, you can't hear when someone is coming up behind you. You can't hear when someone's coming up next to you. You can't hear the footsteps. You can't hear the screaming. If there's a mass shooting, you might not even be able to hear the gunshots, right? You have to be aware of what is going on around you. The other day at one of the locations I work at, we had a guy comes into the store and he's completely spun out. He's tweaking. He's got mental issues. He's running around. He's screaming. He's yelling. He's throwing shit. We get him outside of the store, and this all happens around 12:30, 12:45. The kids from the local high school, they've just started to come over. So as they're entering the store, this guy is outside the store. We've gotten him out. Now he's on the sidewalk and he's running up to the kids. He's running circles around the girls as they enter the store. He's asking people for money. We run him off. We get him away from the kids. He starts throwing rocks at the windows. Now, while all of this is happening directly across the street, there's a coffee shop, a very famous coffee shop, right? It's a sunny day. There's people, sitting outside. There's people standing outside directly across from where we are, where we're dealing with this guy, where he's throwing rocks, where he's screaming, he's yelling, he's taking off his clothes. All of this is out in the open. There's a group of 3 women, grown women, who were standing on the sidewalk no more than 25, 30 feet away from us. They're seeing what's happening. When he leaves our property, he walks right over to these 3 women. Do they run? Do they tell him to back up? Do they fan out, give this guy space? Nope. They sit there and have a 3-minute nonsensical conversation with this guy who's clearly insane. At any given time, he could have hit one of them. He could have stabbed one of them. He could have grabbed one of them. There was nothing about what they had just seen over the last 5 to 10 minutes. Nothing about the fact that there's security guards standing outside, pushing this guy, getting this guy away from the property. There's nothing about what they've just experienced to say, maybe we should get the fuck out of here. And then when he walks over and gets right in their space, there's nothing about that situation where they think, maybe we should get away from this guy. They just stood there. They entertained him. They had a conversation with him. This very news clip that we're watching in the background right now could have easily have been a situation where they were victims to something as well. That kind of bleeds into number 3, which is observing the bubble of protection. Whether you're at a store, you're at a shopping mall, you're out in public, it's COVID distance times 2, maybe times 3. Give me 6 feet. Give me 12 feet of space. You should not be allowing people into your bubble of protection. If you're allowing people to get close to you, You can't respond. You can't react. You don't have time. You're allowing that person to dictate the situation and the circumstances. If they want to go hands-on, if they want to do something to you, God forbid, stab you, stab your child, like what we're seeing in this video here, you don't have time to react or respond to that. You do not need to allow people into your bubble. Now, most people, most females would say, well, what do I do? You know, someone comes up to me at a grocery store and they ask me for money. Someone comes up and they ask me a question. I don't want to be rude. I don't want to be mean. I don't want to be an asshole. Like, I understand, like, I get what you're saying, but at the same time, you know, I don't want to be the person that's seen as being disrespectful to the homeless person or disrespectful to the person that's maybe can't get their car to start, or maybe they need, 50 cents to make a phone call. I get it. I just don't want to be that person. That is learned behavior. And number 2 is to let go of that learned behavior. Women, you have got to get comfortable. I don't want to say necessarily standing your ground, although that is a part of what we're saying here. But you have to be comfortable telling people to get the fuck away from you. It's not about being rude. It's not about being mean. It's about protecting yourself. You should feel 100% comfortable, justified, and vindicated when you're in public, whether it's a male or a female. You don't owe anyone a conversation. You don't owe anyone your ear. You don't owe anyone your sympathy. You don't owe anyone your empathy. Whatever people are dealing with, whatever they're going through, whatever problem they're experiencing, it's not your fucking issue, especially when you have your kids. And you have to let go of the behavior that you are obligated to sit here and have a conversation with someone. Now, we don't know the situation of what happened with this lady, but I see it all the time. I work in this very environment. I see homeless people. I see men. I see women who are going through things. I see people all the time approaching a woman who's going through the store. Hey, can I talk to you for a second? And they're allowing this person to get closer and closer and closer. A lot of times this is happening on a sidewalk. Sometimes it's happening in a garage. Sometimes it's happening in a parking lot that's away from everything and everybody. This is how people end up in these situations 9 times out of 10. Now, can anything happen at any given time? Can somebody just sneak up on you? Could it happen to me? Right? 6'2", 275 pounds. Could it happen to me? Absolutely. But the majority of these situations are happening when things are happening around you and you're not reacting, you're not responding. You hear the person that's having a mental episode. They're screaming, they're yelling, they're flailing their arms around, they're taking their clothes off. A lot of times people just put their head down, go on about their business, and do their absolute best to not make eye contact. That's one way of addressing it. Another would be to keep your eyes on them, see what's happening, and start putting your things away. Getting in your car, getting out of the area, maybe going back inside the store. Putting yourself with a little bit of distance between you and the crazy person, right? Telling people, hey, stop, get away from me, back up, back up. Starting to raise your voice, amplify your voice, giving commands for this person to leave you alone and back away from you. But a lot of times people don't want to be that person. They don't want to come off rude. They don't want to come off like they're insinuating that this person is a threat. And a lot of times, unfortunately, the person is a threat. The person is a threat. And if you have your kids with you, it's non-negotiable. I see people allowing random strangers to come up and talk to their children, random strangers to come up and, pet their kid's head or get close in proximity to their children. That kind of shit is old news, in my opinion. There's just no place for it. It's too dangerous out here. And it's important for you guys to understand that there's nothing wrong with having boundaries when you're out in public, having boundaries of your space, of your time, definitely the space and proximity to your children. The same thing goes for your animals. If you're taking dogs with you out to a grocery store, if you have your animals with you, you're not obligated to let people get in close enough proximity to pet your dog or to talk to your dog or to touch your dog. Stop letting people get close to you. Okay. Number one, there's two things that you have to be willing to do. Either avoid all situations like this or answer the call. And this goes back to people accepting that we live in a dangerous society. It's one step to accept that we live in a dangerous society. Once you've accepted that, now what? Either you're going to avoid things like grocery stores, which, listen, we're in a lucky space. I was talking to my wife yesterday. You know, she ordered groceries. They deliver the groceries right to the house. They bring them up to the door, like perfect situation. I love the fact that we do not at any given time have to go out and get groceries anymore, that they will literally bring them to our house. I love it. Saves me the time, saves me the hassle, saves me having to be in one of the most dangerous parking lots in Portland. I can just have the groceries brought right here. Love it. Love it. So that is an option. The second option is to answer the call if something happens. Now, if you're a woman, if you're elderly, if you're, a pacifist, whatever the situation is that up until this conversation has kept you from being willing to take the steps necessary to protect yourself, if you're not going to avoid these places, if you've made the decision to accept that things are dangerous and that environments are dangerous, then you have to be willing to answer that call. Ladies, listen, you are the only level of protection for that 3-year-old toddler. Again, without knowing the entirety of the situation, I don't want to bring any sort of condemnation on the mother. I'm not saying that. I'm just utilizing this situation as an example. Mother bear mode is great. I get it and I respect it. But mother bear mode has a lot more teeth when you have a firearm or you have a knife or you have some sort of weapon that levels the playing field with the person that's coming to do you and your child harm. Either you accept that or you avoid these types of locations altogether, or you deal with the consequences, which unfortunately are what we're seeing on this video. And I say that with all respect. We send our prayers and our thoughts. I know they don't mean much to that family. And we're hopeful that the mom pulls through. And we hope that the lady that was responsible for this gets exactly what she has coming to her. And we hope that she spends the rest of her life. I'll stop there. I've already gotten enough trouble on YouTube, so I'll stop there. Let's go into the comments, see if there's anything that needs my attention. Condolences to the family. Yep. This person says if this is the same store, they need to shut it down. That's a great point. If this is a situation where things like this are happening on more than one occasion, there definitely needs to be an addressing of that. It says America's going downhill. It's very hard to argue with that. It's very hard to argue with that. Yeah. This person says this is Guns and Cafe. First off, Guns and Cafe, I love the name. Okay. I'm a Bones and Brew kind of guy. He says the Starbucks ladies don't want to be perceived as unkind. Right here. Yeah, very good. PVE says some women will give conversation to somebody so that person cannot be mad at that female. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. This person says, keep your head on a swivel. That's today's reality. We all have to be our own security detail. Great channel. Hey, man, I appreciate it. Thank you so much for the vote of confidence. Guys, look, please drop your comments in the section below. Let me know your thoughts on what we're talking about. Let's go over the top 5 things one more time before we get out of here. It was the top 5 ways to protect your family, understanding that there's violence around us. Number 5 is acceptance of that threat. Number 4, situational awareness. Number 3, observe the bubble of protection. Stop allowing people to get so close to you, especially ladies, right? Number 2, staying on the thread of ladies. Let go of learned behavior. You don't owe people a conversation. You do not owe people access to your space. You definitely do not owe anyone proximity to your children. Stop allowing people, especially men, and even in this situation, this is a woman that performed this stabbing. Stop letting people get close to your kids. Stop letting them touch your children. Stop letting them get close, okay? Number one, be willing to either avoid the area or answer, the call if it comes down. Guys, look, if you're new here, this is a security guard and personal protection channel. Please like, share, and subscribe. If you're a part of this channel, check out our playlist. We got a lot of great information on there, a lot of de-escalation content, but also a lot of personal protection content, defensive tactics, gun retention, knife as a secondary weapon, all very useful. And if you are a working security guard, please go to bonesandbrewsecuritygear.com. Again, that's bonesandbrewsecuritygear.com. Get yourself a t-shirt or a morale patch. It really does help to support the program and the platform. As always, guys, please take care of yourself, be safe, watch your back, watch your six, and as always, be great. Y'all be great. Take care.
Well, I got money in